We are now seeing the rise of many populist groups across the world that are increasingly aggressive towards those who adhere to a minority faith. All of this has deeply disturbing echoes of the dark days of the 1930s. I was born in 1948, just after the end of World War II, in which my parents' generation had fought and died in a battle against intolerance, monstrous extremism, and an inhuman attempt to exterminate the Jewish population of Europe. That nearly 70 years later, we should still be seeing such evil persecution is, to me, beyond all belief.
UK media are reporting that the Manchester Arena bomber was rescued from war-torn Libya by the British Navy in 2014, 3 years before he carried out a terror attack at an Ariana Grande pop concert. The atrocity left 22 people dead and dozens more injured.
Well, according to media reports here in the UK, 3 years before that deadly attack in Manchester, Salman Abedi had been rescued by the British government from Libya. It was part of an operation to rescue British citizens. He was taken aboard a Royal Navy ship and taken to Malta, from where he reportedly then got a flight back to the UK. And he'd been rescued by the British government, even though he had been under the surveillance of the Domestic Intelligence Agency here, that's MI5. Now, in terms of Abedi's background, he was born in the UK but to Libyan parents, so he was a British citizen. But in 2011, Abedi's parents moved to join the uprising against the government of Muammar Gaddafi. And his father was thought to have been fighting in a terrorist group called the LIFG, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group. And Abedi was thought to have sort of shuttled back and forth between the UK and Libya for a number of years, but he was thought to have been in Libya in the summer of 2014. And at that point, the civil war had got increasingly violent. And so British officials made this offer to evacuate British nationals from the country. That's how Abedi ended up being rescued. And by the time of his rescue, MI5 had stopped monitoring him, and the implication, therefore, is that he was simply considered safe to return back to the UK. That was reiterated to us by the MOD today. In a statement, they told us that sort of the government inquiry into what led up to the Manchester attack, it found that the decision to stop monitoring Abedi in 2014 was sound on the basis of the information available at the time.
Torture's been a problem in Bahrain for decades. You might argue it reached a height in 2011 when thousands of people protested against the government. The government responded violently, disproportionately, and in some cases lethally. Hundreds of people were rounded up. Many of those people were tortured systematically. And in response to the international pressure that followed, Bahrain promised to reform, set up institutions, and one of the things those institutions pledged to do was to end torture. The problem that we're finding is that there is no evidence to suggest that these institutions have been effective in ending what was described at the time as a culture of impunity among the security forces. Former detainees have described torture to us. Their stories are vital to documenting the ongoing use of torture in Bahrain. We've identified a general pattern of mistreatment whereby people are taken from their homes, usually in the middle of the night, by masked men who present no arrest warrants. They're blindfolded, they're taken to detention centres, they're kept in solitary confinement, and then they're subjected to interrogations.
ولا اللي صاب السائق راح فر وجهي، يعني ما كنت أقدر أشوف. حط السكين على العضو، قال لي راح أسأل 3 مرات، وإذا ما اعترفت راح نقطع.
Over the term of the 7 days, I was held in the Central Intelligence Directorate. I was beaten. I was forced to stay standing for most of the time, handcuffed to the back, blindfolded. I was stripped naked.
And the purpose of these interrogations is to make them sign what they claim are false confessions.
زين ليش نطلع فيكم؟
عشان يقولون قتلكم.
تقتلونا؟ والله زين.
These confessions are presented to them in the presence of a masked individual, and this process is filmed on cameras.
متأكد؟ متأكد؟
After 2 days of sleep deprivation and after all the beating, I was slipping away. I was starting to hallucinate. I was afraid for my sanity, and I decided I will sign this. Just bring me the paper.
We are now seeing the rise of many populist groups across the world that are increasingly aggressive towards those who adhere to a minority faith.